Ah, The Forest. A survivor game about a father trying to rescue his son and stay alive on a deserted island. A simple and neat concept, but with a whopping 45 trophies that had me on a 40-hour grind just to get one of them, along with obscure gathering and trophies requiring that you get them done in a single session due to the game resetting after. This would be quite a run. Literally.
Oh my god! Oh jeez, oh my god!
But yes, as I mentioned earlier, the game has 45 trophies that we need to collect in order to 100% complete it on Steam, and thankfully we don't get a collectibles trophy unless you count Timmy's toys as collectibles only, even though the entire map is like a giant collectible itself. But starting things off, I gathered the achievements on 3 different runs to completely get everything. Now, you can definitely do it in 2 runs if you really know what you're doing, but I never do, so here I am. All jokes aside, this was a convoluted plat because it had some trophies that either required you to wait 100 days before ending the game, or doing complete runs without eating any meat, and if you know me, I'm all about eating meat. Amongst other trophies such as cutting down 1000 trees. To not confuse you with the details, since I had already played the forest in the past, I had gotten 12 trophies by natural gameplay, which most consisted of the basics such as surviving one night and sleeping with another player. However, in the beginning, instead of mindlessly trying to hunt and get trophies, I knew that I needed to make myself a base and a house, not only for a trophy that required repairing a shelter, but also because throughout the passing days you would start encountering cannibals that would only evolve and get stronger, so I needed a safe place from the outside world, just like in real life. While I was doing that, however, we knocked out some easy trophies, which required me to share an item in multiplayer, revive a friend 10 times, which also gave me the trophy for a single revive as well, sleep on a yacht, share a weapon in multiplayer, as well as build the gazebo, which was super time consuming, mainly because our game glitched and placed planks below, thinking that we placed the gazebo in an elevator area, rather than the ground itself, though the majority of planks were going below the ground anyways. It's not like the gazebo itself didn't encounter an accident. To top it all off, we found this funny glitch where if you sprint into a bush like this while carrying the log holder, you get launched into the sky, and depending on RNG is the amount of height you will gain every time you do it. From here on out, I was starting to slowly yet surely chip them down as I go. While I was still heavily preoccupied by getting enough resources to ensure that I stayed alive, the opportunity to equip a rock and end this very revealing lady's life via a smack to the prefrontal cortex presented itself, and I took it. Since the people here don't mind showing you almost everything they got to offer so that a lack of miscommunication would not occur in these tribes, I must admit that I don't know how I feel about this artistic choice to have such revealing NPCs in the game. I mean, from a content creation side of things, it's obviously cooked, but from a player standpoint, it's even worse, since for the first time in my life I'm getting more than adequate female attention, which I still don't know whether or not to feel scared or excited.
That's what I'm saying!
Nevertheless, since I had the time and the space required to execute the next trophy, which needs you to build the Great Wall of China. Good thing, however, that it doesn't need you to actually build it, but rather make the blueprint. After that, I made a crucial yet bad decision. You see, there is a trophy that requires you to wait 10 full days without killing any cannibals. Since this trophy is kinda known for being buggy, even though you can theoretically hurt enemies but not kill them, sometimes hurting them translates to killing them in the game. So the only way to consistently get this trophy is by camping inside of the base for 10 days. And that is exactly what I wanted to do. Even though that doesn't sound like a very bad decision, it is because later in the game I had almost nothing since I spent all my early game time AFKing for a trophy, which then resulted in an underleveled experience. While I was waiting, however, I was actively trying to find the resources required in between my food scavenge hunts, which resulted in the pop-up of this trophy right here. And very soon after that, the 10-day AFK trophy popped as well. Now, right before we continue with the rest of this plat, I knew that there was going to be a set of trophies that in theory could be gotten in regular survival. They would, however, be ridiculous to do so, and as a result, I switched to a quick little save where I was in creative. And just in case you haven't caught up, I am talking of course about the 1000 trees trophy. Now if you don't know, the trick with this trophy isn't so much the amount of trees that it wants you to cut down, even if it is a tremendous amount. The real killer in this one is the fact that you have to do it all in a single session, otherwise the tree amount resets. Doing some super quick math here, if you were to go from a basis of an average of 30 seconds per tree, which does include the time to travel to the next one, and assuming that you have an upgraded axe at your disposal since the starter axe is only going to slow you down, 30 seconds times 1000 trees, about 8.5 hours of only chopping down trees.
Oh, hell no.
We obviously haven't taken into consideration other variables such as hunger and thirst, and of course let's not forget about the cannibals that roam the place. While I was doing that, however, I got 3 more trophies accidentally that consisted of setting off 20 bombs since I used the explosive chop for this, otherwise it wouldn't matter much doing the trees in creative, getting 6 trees with 1 explosive, and exploding a bunch of fish from a single explosion. From here on out, things start off easy but will end up complicated. But for now, all you need to know is that I started my retaliation and brought peace and justice to this island by exacting the same behavior these cannibals give back. At first it started on the surface and it even got me a trophy. But naturally, since I'm never satisfied, I went deeper and found out a cave network which suspiciously connects with each other. I hope that there won't be a conveniently badly placed trophy about all these caves. And since I kept chopping and eating, I got another 2 trophies, one signaling justice served and the other one justice chopped? Immediately after emerging from the mines, we were ambushed, and yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention that I was playing with some friends at the time to help pass the time while I was getting the achievements. Not that the ambush bare any fruit aside from 10 minutes of extra wasted footage and armor. And we start off to catch one of the easiest trophies of the video, which needs us to kill a shark, which I may say is the easiest thing in the world. If I could get the f***er to spawn in. I swear to you, I even watched videos about this man, only to find out that he was shy of getting brutally farmed. We got him in the end, and it turns out he was camping his ass at the one corner of the sea that I didn't care enough to look, thinking that it was too shallow. Following up on the age-old tradition of starting a new save, which will not be counted on the multiple runs video due to the insignificant time spent here getting a single trophy because I thought it was bugged, but rather turns out I'm a dumbass. You see, one of the trophies for the game is repairing a shelter, which in theory is super easy. All you have to do is get the repair tool and then repair a damaged shelter. They forget to mention that you have to do a specific shelter, which also happens to be the one I didn't build at all during my attempts, and what makes this worse is the fact that I was out here googling the trophy, and in a caption it said that I needed to specifically build the Hunter's Lodge, which I didn't notice, so I wasted a solid hour in a new game building and damaging all the shelters until I eventually got it right. After that, I knocked out a super easy one which needs you to plant all different plant types. Since I had already built a garden, I had unknowingly planted all plants with the exception of the coneflower. Since I got that and got back to pace for an easy trophy pop. What wasn't as much of an easy trophy pop was eating all the different mushroom types. Similar to the 1000 trees trophy, this one gets reset back to nothing per session. So the best way to get it is to collect all the mushrooms in the pouch and then eat them all for the trophy. Not much would happen, however, for quite some time, since me and the boys were exploring the caves and messing around. Not that that would matter anyway, since I may have had a misfortune ending, which I'm not leaking or anything. And naturally, since almost all of Timmy's toys are located in the caves, I got around to getting them all as well. I don't know what's stranger at this point. The fact that Timmy has his toy laid around an entire island, this guy's Pinocchio nose, or the fact that I've missed a singular cassette tape on one of those said caves and had to go back and get it, which was a nightmare having to hear this guy groan at my ears for minutes on end as I climbed the damn rope. But hey, as long as I get the trophy, I guess it's worth it. The RNG factor of getting a fish caught in a trap is kinda crazy though, since it pretty much requires you to build a rabbit trap underwater which automatically turns into a fish trap, and I don't know why this wasn't in the trap section from the get-go, but what do I know. After placing a trap in a small pond where fish reside, you kinda have to leave it and forget about it. However, there is still a % chance of a fish entering, at least from what I was able to gather. And it turns out that I had a real shot of even finding a girlfriend by the time this damn thing caught something. The good thing is while I was waiting for that, I knocked out a couple of miscellaneous crafting items which was needed for the crafty trophy that needs you to craft all items in the game. Since I had only some of the harder items to craft at this point, considering that I was passively getting them from the start of the server, I decided to go for the headhunting trophy, which consists of pretty much everything that is alive, aside from other humans I suppose. This proved to be tricky due to the fact that I had to manually get them one by one and very painfully bring them back to base while getting chased by cannibals most of the time. I didn't have to bring them back per se to the base, and could just make a head mount on the spot somewhere in the area where I found the corresponding head. However, if I didn't, I'd have to have either a mental note or an actual note for which heads I had, and I didn't want to do that, so I did it manually. But not before crafting all items, which for me the last one was the energy mix. I had completely forgotten this item even existed in the game until I randomly found it while I was trying to figure out what I haven't crafted yet. Anyways, the headhunts were all pretty successful with the sole exception of the boar pigs. Now naturally you can find this in a plethora of spots, but turns out that the game had glitched and didn't spawn any new ones so that I could get the trophy. What made this worse was that I thought, just like some other trophies mentioned here, I thought that it had to be obtained in a single session, but that ultimately wasn't the case, and after restarting the server I was able to get the pop on the achievement. And here, ladies and gentlemen, is why you don't rush things. Since we are at the final trophies, I had to only get the final ending cave and finish the game for this playthrough. But since I was not only impatient but also wanted to do the cool trick where you can fall with the turtle shell, I figured I could skip past all the cave stuff very quickly and save some time with the only cave that wasn't searched yet being the end cave. After this tragedy, I honestly thought that I could simply continue from where I left off, but I found out that would be far from the truth. Ending the game, which was a hitbox-induced nightmare, but can be easily cheesed by standing on the door where you came from, and getting my only ending-based achievement, which was drinking water from this thing with the lawyer's head in it, and that was that. From here on out, everything becomes really easy, yet very time-consuming. I started off my second official playthrough, which was aimed only at getting the vegan achievement, which I was able to do after roughly an hour of gameplay, considering that the only things you need to do to end the game is to get the car from the cave and then gather enough food and armor for the endgame boss fight, which can also be done in any difficulty. and thus at the third and final playthrough, which doesn't need to be fully completed. I followed a guide on Creative on how and where to find all the passengers and search all the caves, which had to be fully explored from the start since my first and only death at the first playthrough. But considering that I never got around to doing it, it would be a good time to get that collateral value. And because we have gotten the pedometer from Cave 7 and I am on creative mode, I just went up to the snow mountain and walked back and forth until I got it. And then I AFK'd for about 25 to 30 hours more, which got me that final trophy, Bad Father, for surviving 100 days without finding my son. And that was all the achievements done for the forest. Since this game wasn't all that difficult, I wouldn't say that it was a huge pain in the butt to complete. But considering how buggy it was, and the fact that some trophies downright require you to play at creative such as the 1000 trees, I'd say that it could have been better. Next up on the list is Titanfall 2.